I can clip the beginning.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Steve Rosenkrantz. I'm a career ownership coach with the Entrepreneur Source. So what does that mean? Well, a lot of people know me as a franchise coach. My company uses franchising as the vehicle to educate people about business ownership. And we're experts in the world of franchising that's ever changing. So today's seminar is From Employee to Entrepreneur, Exploring Franchise Ownership as a Career Option. And I'll tell you a little bit about me. So those who grew up or your families grew up in the Western Mass region, you know me as the Serve You guy. I was on TV commercials for the better part of 30 years, many with my dad. We had a pretty big family business. We were the premier True Value hardware home center chain throughout Western Mass, Northern Connecticut area. Amongst other things, auto supply stores and paint and wallpaper stores. And anyone who had a baby knows me from Baby Castle for about 3 decades. And today, our family still extends with Serve You Locksmiths. So that is my first cousin. And about in 2001, literally 20 years ago, when I needed to reinvent myself, and knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'd never actually worked for anyone before. I'd never even done a resume before. When I went to Babson College, I knew I was going into the family business, and it was a great choice. Enjoyed my time in the family business, but all good things come to an end. Things were changing rapidly. Back then, the internet was just starting up. The competition was just evolving here in New England in a whole different capacity than prior, with all the big chains coming in. And we made a decision to stick with a couple of our niches. And I decided I was going to, again, reinvent myself. So I became a client of a franchise called the Entrepreneur Source. And I loved working with my coach. And I told my wife, I says, it's a free source. It's a free resource. It's a free program. I can't believe it. She said, no, I'm sure there's a catch to it. And there wasn't. The Entrepreneur Source is a worldwide franchise that gets fully subsidized 100% by hundreds of franchises. Every shape, size, every different kind of industry and business model is represented, a whole array of franchises for the benefit of the education and discovery of our clients. So here I was, a client. And I love the process. I love the profiling that was done on me. And really, I started to get clarity on what direction I wanted to go in as I wanted to continue to be an entrepreneur. So basically, as I was researching different franchise options through the Entrepreneur Source program, my gut told me, I think I want to do what my coach is doing. So I said, his name was Barry. I said, Barry, I think the Entrepreneur Source has a lot of appeal to me. He said, well, it is one of the 3 franchises I have selected for you. And I don't select that for everybody. It's a certain kind of person that would really resonate towards helping people and educating people in entrepreneurship. You have that background and personality to do that. He said, but don't jump forward yet. Validate that along with the other 2 options that I'm presenting to you, and that will really get you to that position of clarity. And that's exactly what happened. I validated all 3, which is another word for a discovery process, with the help of mentoring of my coach. And I love that he was a free resource for me. There were no time limits, no pressure. He created that safe place for me to explore. And I was right. My gut told me the Entrepreneur Source is my calling. I invested in the Entrepreneur Source way back in 2001. And here I am 20 years later. And today, we're a coaching firm that has over 165 offices nationwide, actually worldwide. We're in Canada as well. We provide education and coaching to people who are exploring business ownership as a career option. Now, you'll notice the word coaching, not consulting. In the early years, we probably were called consultants. We really are not. We are true coaches. Why is that different? Well, coaches empower people to really steer the ship. We're more the guardrails on the side of the road so you don't go off. And we have the resources for our clients to utilize to really get to that position of clarity so they can make a good informed choice on their career path and their next career options. And by providing the education and coaching, with a coach, there's no time limits. We stick with people. They can come and go as they please. And again, because we're a free resource, it becomes an easy way to work with folks and kind of meet them where they're at in terms of the education. So we help our clients identify and research options that match their background, skills, interests, and earnings and lifestyle goals. Okay, there's no cost, as I said, for our placement coaching services. What's really interesting is 95% of our clients actually discover options they would not have explored on their own. In some cases, it maybe had even prematurely dismissed. Let me give you a quick example of that locally here. Clients of mine were referred to me years ago, and one had a commercial real estate background. Another had financial background with UBS offices he was running. And I loved working with these two guys. And I said, look, I'm going to take you out of your comfort zone a little bit, but I'm going to show you this newfangled thing called an urgent care center. And it's called Doctors Express. Today, you guys know it as AFC Urgent Care. And first they thought I was nuts, but they said, oh, you told us to keep an open mind. We're going to do that. And so they did. And I said, here's why I'm showing this to you. I like the fact that you don't love and are totally enveloped in health and wellness, because then you'll want to go into your centers and you'll want to work with every one of your clients because you'll have that passion. I want you to step back and work on the business, not in the business. And that way, as what we call area developers, because they own the rights to many states here in New England, you'll be able to really grow your business and truly work on that business. And they did. In fact, they opened 27 urgent care centers. In fact, I brought the whole industry to New England. No one had ever heard of urgent care centers. In a related example, I had a husband and wife, this is in the early years, 2001, 2002, that I helped get into home watch caregivers. Everyone knows that today as one of the many great senior care franchises. And back then people said, wait a second, you mean you're going to have a caregiver go into someone's home? Why? Why aren't they in the nursing home? They need that extra care and stuff. I said, no, it's the quality of life really gets extended with these kinds of non-medical and sometimes medical services. Today, you all know it's a huge industry, and the aging population makes it that much more enticing. It's bigger than ever today. And my clients ended up opening 3 offices in Western Mass, and they followed exactly their plan. They retired after about 18 years and sold it to the Connecticut group and retired. So everyone's happy. So again, that's where they would never have explored these two folks, my clients, in this case, the senior care or healthcare or medical areas. But they found that they really did match their goals and needs. So let's talk about what we call the new career economy. The job market has changed permanently. Workers will need to change jobs and industries many times during the career. Lots of downsizing, jobs going overseas, less security and predictability, either no pensions or reduced pensions, reduced or limited benefits. Everyone knows this. The day where we remembered our parents, our grandparents would work 50, 60 years somewhere and get the pension check and the gold watch and the farewell party. Those days have long passed by. And today I'll be referred to by people who will show me resumes that will have 7, 8, 9 different job steps along the way. And these are really bright people, but you can see there's no real loyalty there. They're just going where they can get the best situation. So why are people exploring business ownership? Well, you got to ask, is business ownership right for you? And I want to tell everyone who's watching this webinar today, you don't have to already feel that franchising might be the right direction for you. It may or may not be. But what I'll tell you is, by just soaking up some of this information and then maybe connecting with me and having a nice conversation, again, all no cost or an obligation to you, you're going to be ahead of the game because you'll learn about franchising. Whether you go down that route or not is perfectly fine. But by being educated about franchising, you'll know how to play nice in the sandbox if you decide to do something more on the independent side and maybe your own startup business. That's perfectly fine as well. But it's always good to be informed and understand what the competition, what other people are doing. It makes it better for everybody. So when we say, is business ownership right for you, you're going to ask yourself, are you looking for security and self-sufficiency to eliminate maybe the possibility of downsizing, the ability to control your destiny and schedule, a way to build equity and diversify your investments, a more direct correlation between your efforts and the end result, to create a beacon maybe and possible career option for your children? Are you self-motivated? Can you get past that perceived security of a paycheck? Okay, those are the things you really want to ask yourself. So why a franchise? Well, with a franchise, you take advantage of a proven business model and often a well-known brand. There's many levels of support and training. You surround yourself with industry experts. And what I love is the next bullet. Usually no direct industry experience needed. Heck, I sold hardware before this, but I was a student to learn. I wanted to learn something new. I wanted to reinvent myself, but I wanted the tools and resources to be provided for me. I didn't want to wake up every day and reinvent the wheel like I did in my family business. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but when you have your own independent business, a startup, what happens is that work-life balance, you can't help it. It just gets diluted. You live and breathe your business 24/7, right? That cell phone's going on all the time. You're getting texts day and night, middle of the night, okay? It can really wear on you. It did in my family business, okay? But with franchising, in my example, because we're a franchise, I happen not to be so good on the social media format. And so I know it's important. I know what needs to be done. So my franchise said, okay, Steve, here's a company. Here's who's going to work with you. They know your business inside out. They know our business. They're going to post things for you. You can have some say in it too, but if not, they're happy to do it. You're going to get all those thumbs up while you're doing something else. Now that's how you really run a business and utilize your time. And then you have a great work-life balance. So to me, that's very, very important. Okay. But there's many levels of support and training. That's really, really important. There's the vendor relationships and strategic partners. So when you try to do something yourself, you're going to be limited. You're only going to be a local presence in most cases, where a franchise will be national or international and will have those marketing tools and lead generation programs and those vendor relationships and partnerships and things like that. To us, it's called being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. That's when a franchise is really done right. It's a true win-win relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee. So what exactly is franchising? Well, here's some logos that will look familiar to everybody, including my own logo, the Entrepreneur Source. Okay. So franchising is not a business or an industry. It's actually a method of distributing products and services to consumers. Okay, utilize a network of local owners operating under a shared brand. Now the franchisees pay the franchisor for the right to do business under that name and operate under a specified controlled business method or format. They'll be able to use the technologies, the tools, the logo, the marketing systems, all those things that will be very important to ramp up successfully their business. While the franchisors provide significant initial and continuing services and support. If it's a storefront business, then it'd be site selection, lease negotiation assistance, full build out. They're going to make sure it's in the right location, instead of you trying to figure all that out yourself. Okay, they'll help you during the grand opening, help you with training and support and all that of your people that you're going to hire. Okay, hey, just a fun fact. It's not, I don't have a slide for it, but a lot of people, when they think of franchising and the origins of it, right away, that first logo, right, McDonald's. Not exactly right. Now, you guys will all know something that almost everybody doesn't know. The original franchise was actually the Singer sewing machines. In 1858, Isaac Singer invented the sewing machine. Now, there were two problems to take it to market. Consumers had to be taught how to use it first, and Isaac Singer, he didn't have the money, didn't have the capital. So the solution he came up with, he sold the rights to local business people. He trained them on how to use the machines. He collected fees for licensing rights, resulting in being able to fund the manufacturing of sewing machines and training. Singer Sewing Machines, the first real franchise. So how widespread is franchising? Well, it's well over 4,000 franchises in the US, covering everything from animal care to yard work. I'm working now with a client showing them an art class franchise that they can actually run part-time, manage the manager, we call it semi-absentee, while they keep their job initially. So I like to say there's something for everybody when we talk about franchising. It could be business to business consultative type of models where you don't need any employees. You could run from your home office and help businesses with different types of solutions. Could be personal training, could be pet services. Pet services is really a big thing. It keeps growing, okay? So the financial impact of franchising. Now, franchises account for over $2 trillion in sales, 760,000 business units, 18 million jobs, and 500 billion in payroll. 44% of U.S. retail sales, 1 out of every 12 U.S. businesses. What's interesting in terms of franchising facts to me is as a percentage of total businesses, if you think of a pie, only 8% are actually franchises, but 40.9% is the actual effect, is the actual franchising share, a significant portion of the GNP. So that 8% translates to 41%. That's why everybody knows franchising, but in fact, the curve is still on the early stage. There's so much growth ahead for franchising. So how big are franchise systems? 8% of franchises have over 500 units. 34% of franchises have between 50 to 500 units, but 58%, a vast amount of franchises have less than 50 units. And that's where I come in. My sweet spot really are clients who are looking for a single unit, multiple territories. In the case of my clients who owned AFC Urgent Care, Doctors Express, they became area or master developers, developing the franchises through a wider region. All of those things are things that I get very involved with my clients. So how much does a franchise cost? What's the total investment? Here's where I really surprise people in a very positive way, because sometimes people hear the word franchise and right away they think McDonald's, Subway, Dunkin' Donuts. They're not wrong, but they are limiting themselves with that perception. Because, for example, I work with clients all day long in what I call the service sector, where you don't even need a storefront. You don't necessarily need equipment. You don't need a lot of employees. It could be something home-based. It could be coaching or consulting, B2B type professional services, distribution services. Some could be done part-time. You see that on the slide, as could be as low as 25,000 to 100,000 range, okay? And then you can see on the slide, there are other segments of industries that people can get involved in, and there's a wide array of investments. So don't limit yourself in thinking, well, I don't have $350,000 to $500,000 for a franchise. I'll rule that out. Well, you know, I just put somebody in a franchise that was only $50,000. So, and we can help with financing options as well. A lot of folks ask me, well, how do franchises determine territory? How does that work? Well, it's interesting. It really can vary. We have franchises that have what we call an exclusive defined territory, and they have very strong proprietary software that determines, based on their business and their industry, what a protected defined territory looks like. And you have the rights when you join that franchise and you sign your franchise agreement, you have the sole rights to business done in that territory, Okay. But a lot of times franchises have non-exclusive territories, sometimes virtual territories. I just helped a gentleman get into a business-to-business consulting franchise where, although he's based in a rural part of Connecticut, he can work with clients all around the country. And I just found out he has a couple clients now in the UK. So it really depends on the franchise, and it depends on how you want to run the business. Okay, we can find something, as I'll say many times through this presentation, there's something for everybody. You tell me what you're looking for and what you want the business to do for you. I help you find the right business models that meet that unique criteria that you have. What I tend to do is I take people out of the world of the internet clicker where everyone's the same gathering information. And when I work with a client, they're very unique criteria. I look at their ILWE goals, stands for income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals. You know, you can have a job and you can have wonderful INL, income and lifestyle. Because, hey, before COVID, I mean, people could have a great lifestyle and they could, work from home 2 or 3 days a week and maybe then go to Aetna just a couple days a week there. That's good. That's a lifestyle component. But can you really build true W&E, wealth and equity, by working for someone else? I don't think so. That's why what I do is very popular for people who want to take control of their own destiny. So back to territory. It can be based upon population. Some franchises who serve the business community, they'll look at the number of businesses in a defined territory to see what depicts a viable new territory to develop. They may look at the registered number of vehicles, number of qualified households. There's all different indicators. Again, it varies depending on the company and the industry. So let's look at franchise options and the role of the owner, okay? So there's a wide variance here. There could be someone who just wants to be an owner-operator, keep it simple, keep it a lower investment, and have a single unit or a single territory. There could be someone who says, I want to grow something bigger, Steve. I want to be a manager. I want to oversee a larger scalable business. Well, then they may want multiple units and be interested in that. My example of my client in the urgent care industry, they wanted to be area developers, really manage and develop a team. They'll give guidance and mentorship and assistance with marketing and training to all the franchisees that open up in their defined territory over time, but they get revenue stream from monthly royalties to the franchisor. They get a piece of that every single month, recurring revenue. So area and master development is very, very appealing for many people who want to really build a big franchise. And co-branding, that's where you would take 2 or 3 different franchise systems and you co-brand them together. They don't interfere with each other, but they broaden your deliverance of what you're appealing with your goods or services and products to your clients by co-branding and offering more. So just a little terminology for everybody. There's sometimes a misconception when people say, well, how much is a franchise? I read online that a Chick-fil-A, I could get a Chick-fil-A for $10,000. Actually, I get that 5 times a week. I'm really used to that. So no, you can't get a Chick-fil-A for $10,000. What you can do is you can put in an application to become a manager of a Chick-fil-A. That sounds like fun. For a minimum of 3 years, and then put in to have some investment potential going forward from there. But before you can get to there, you really have to win the lottery with 500 other people who also put in the application. Okay, so I bring that up because I don't work with Chick-fil-A, but $10,000 is what they call the initial franchise fee, or the initial fee to get in. Be careful when you're doing your research. A franchise fee is just a one-time fee at the time of signing the agreement. It may or may not be indicative of the full cost, it almost never is, of really ramping up and then running that business. It is a piece of it. So it's a one-time fee. It's a great franchise fee because it does enable you then to utilize all the proprietary software and the marketing and the training and the tools and resources and ongoing support. So you get a lot for the franchise fee, but make sure, and if you're working with me, you'll know beyond the franchise fee, here's all the item lines so that you're properly funded for the ramp up of any business. So the total investment's really what you want to be looking at. That's the amount you'll spend, including the franchise fee, is embedded in that to open on day number one. Now, royalties is the ongoing fee. People say, well, I wouldn't want to have a franchise because I wouldn't want to pay someone else royalties. If I own my own business, I wouldn't have to pay anyone royalties. I get that a lot. But here's the thing. I've owned my own independent business most of my life and now been in franchising the last 20 years. And here's what I'll tell you. They may not have been called royalties, but when you own your own independent business, you can't just live in a vacuum. You can't just do everything yourself. You have to rely on outside experts in many different areas. It could be marketing. It could be legal advice. It could be all kinds of things that you're going to pay to get the information you need to be ahead of the competition curve and to be right on top of that industry that you're in. In franchising, it just happens they bottle it all together and it's called a royalty. It's a percentage typically of gross sales paid monthly, not always, but typically. Or it could be a flat fee. We're seeing more and more of that now. Now, a flat fee, which every few years goes up incrementally. But if you think about it, if you really do well with your franchise and it's a flat fee, what does that mean? It means you're actually paying less and less of a percentage, but everyone's happy. Sometimes there's an ad fund. That's a percentage of gross, or it could be a flat fee. Be careful with that. If so, you do some research and say, oh my gosh, on top of a royalty, I'm paying an ad fund. Oftentimes that doesn't kick in from day one. That's something that's in their franchise disclosure document. They reserve the right once your area is built up and now you want to do some more regional type marketing things, at that point there could be an ad fund that would kick in, but that benefits everybody. The word term, there's always a number of years of an agreement, okay? And that's something that you'll learn and you'll see, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just an easy exit time for the franchisor and or the franchisee to mutually agree. Maybe you want to move on, maybe you want to sell it, transfer it, or maybe you want to renew. It's a nice break point. Typically it's 10 years. There is some variance with that. And then the renewal to then continue are always outlined in the agreement. And there's a license transfer as well if you're going to be selling your franchise. Again, the franchisor helps you with all that. Now, I've mentioned the FDD, the franchise disclosure document. What I love about franchising is it's very highly regulated. That's a good thing. It means there's no secrets. There's no things that are going to pop up later. You ever research an independent business and you think, wow, that's a pretty good deal. I think I have the funds for that. I could buy that independent business, and only found out later there's two sets of books where not everything was apparent that should have been. Unfortunately, that happens far too often. Franchising is much more vanilla. It's everything spelled out in that franchise disclosure document. Everything legally has to be disclosed. You could even see people who left the franchise, and you can contact those people. Their information is there. I even recommend that. All the active people are shown on there. Any litigation that would have happened. We hope it doesn't happen, but if it did, that's got to be shown in the FDD. And it's got to be renewed and updated every single year by the state that franchise, every state that franchise is doing business with. So that's really important. Now, the last bullet's important. I want to touch on that. The item 19. Many franchises, more and more now, have the 19th item, thus the name item 19, is what we call an earnings claim. They're going to spell right out there in writing what people are actually making revenue-wise in that franchise, because you want to know that, right? You don't want to invest in something and not know what the scalability and the potential that your investment can yield. Okay, so an earnings claim sometimes will show on the low side and a high side, but it's actual documentation from actual franchisees. So that's really valuable as well. So financing options. Okay, so my favorite is the first one. It's called the ROBS program. Very popular in franchising. Doesn't have to just be franchising though. And it's what I call the 401k rollover program. It's the #1 way that I assist my clients, because many have worked many years for employers, and they've developed, they have that retirement program, and they have that 401k or 502b or thrift savings plan. Maybe they or a spouse have an IRA, traditional IRA. All of those things I call retirement funds. And you can take the amount you need for your new franchise, and we add, of course, the working capital. We make sure we're very conservative. You're not cut short, and you can roll over the amount you need for the new franchise, penalty-free, tax deferred. It's fascinating. Most people do not know about this. We're happy to educate people, and it's just a great way. I've got a great resource that right in the family that can really help to educate people about that ROBS program. Another great thought is the SBA program. Pretty much all the franchises I work with are in the SBA registry, we call it, and people can use their own bank. That is an SBA lending bank. There's some great ones here in Western Mass, or I can assist as well, because I have great resources with specific agents throughout the country for all different sizes and shapes of SBA programs. I also love working with veterans. So anyone who knows veterans, please send them my way. There's some wonderful vet fran programs in franchising, and that lends itself to wonderful freedom loan type programs with the SBA, specifically for our military, for our veterans, okay? Lines of credit. Now that's an interesting one. Not only from your bank, because you always want to check that first, but unsecured lines of credit could be an interesting avenue for some of my clients that don't have Uncle Fred who can help out with a family-friendly loan. They don't have 50,000 more, particularly that you typically would need in retirement type funds to do a rollover. Okay, they don't have enough liquidity for the front end of an SBA loan, but they've got a pretty good credit score, and they've worked hard to get that 700 or right around that 700 mark or above credit score. That's where unsecured lines of credit could be something that can get the people, my clients, the money they need up front for the new franchise. And it is a loan. You do pay it back, but that's something that we could look into as well. Now, the family and friends, that's the number one thing. That should really be on the top of the list. That's where you want to start, because, you know, in life, you don't get if you don't ask. And Uncle Larry just might say, you know, who knows what's going on with that stock market? If you're going to be getting into this franchise, sounds pretty good. Could I be a silent investor? Or Aunt Ruth that says, hey, I'm 86 years old. I'm happy to help, you know, your family. Can I assist with a family-friendly loan? No interest, you know. So those are things I call it the low-hanging fruit. Doesn't cost anything. And if you strike out, you're just back to where you started. But again, your entrepreneur source coach, like me, can direct you to financing experts. So how do you find the right franchise business? Well, franchising is counterintuitive. It's not like getting a job or starting a new company. Most franchises, as I indicated earlier, do not require industry experience. They're going to train and support you. Okay, my folks, like I say, who get into the senior care industry or children's education, or it could be handyman services. There's so many industries we get involved with. Okay, most of my clients actually don't have direct industry experience. But when you have a resume and you're going to get a job, what do you try to do? You're lining up with exactly what you've done before and hope that you've got more experience and can command the right salary more than the next guy looking for the same job. Okay, but franchises is kind of fun in that if you're open-minded and you're willing to stay curious and you're willing to learn new things, the franchisor will love you. Okay, they want franchisees to market and manage the business. As we say, no technicians, please. Now, it's not exactly true. There could be franchises or examples where you could be the man in the van. I've got a couple clients that are very happy, and that's really what they wanted. They wanted to do the work themselves. They really weren't looking to build a team. They were very satisfied with the scalability of being their own boss can give them. But for the most part, franchising is looking for people who can manage other people, can manage the systems and processes that are put in play for them, utilize the marketing and technology that's going to be provided. I like to say the business, the franchise in our case, should be the vehicle to get the things in life you want. So you see the inputs, the things that you bring to the equation, you find the business, and then you get the income, the lifestyle, the wealth, the equity, the ILWI I mentioned before, the personal and professional satisfaction from it. Again, this is very important. You want to have that preferred mindset. Use the business, the franchise, as a vehicle to get to where you want to go. So if you were my client and you said, Steve, I love golf. Let me start a golf store. You have anything in franchising and golf? I'd probably stop you right there. I'd say, you know what? In most cases, not all, but most cases, vast majority, I would want someone who loves golf to continue to love golf. Don't put a business around it. Why do you love golf? Because it's outdoors, it's about health, it's about getting together with family or friends or associates. But the biggest thing is, it's those 4 hours where you don't think about business at all, or hopefully you're not. But now you put a business with it, and wow, that knocks it right out of the water. Now you're not going to like golf so much 3 years later. I know that because that happened to one of my clients. So let the business be the vehicle in order to get the things you want. Going back to that, what I said before, that work-life balance is so important. And that's what I love about franchising. I think it just gives you an easier way to reach your ILWI, income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals, but really have that very concise work-life balance. Work hard, but play hard. In my business, I'm off every weekend. No one bothers me on weekends. I can't remember the last weekend I've ever worked. Holidays, always enjoy the holidays. I can make up some holidays too. But that's my franchise. Every franchise could be different. But again, when I work with my clients, the work-life balance, the lifestyle is really important, unless someone tells me they don't want the lifestyle. Never happened yet, though. So you determine what you want your life to look like from owning a business in areas of lifestyle, earnings, day-to-day activities, professional satisfaction, using your personality and skills. You want to identify your attributes and skills and be honest with yourself about your strengths, your weaknesses, circumstances, career possibilities. If somebody's not a sales type personality, look, in franchising, you still want to sell yourself, but there are many franchises, whether you're managing the manager or you can be a little more behind the scenes or get the right people in play, where you don't have to hone in on those major sales hunting type skills, where other people really love that. And there are some wonderful franchises that can embellish that as well. Back to what I say, there's something for everybody. It's fun to explore. So our approach continued. We want to gather the critical information, the earnings, ramp up time, actual results, lifestyle, the relationship between the franchisor and the franchisees through structured inside research, conversations, interviews, fact gathering, visits. We call them discovery days. Today, they're done virtually. In non-COVID days, there'll be actual visits. But they've done a wonderful job with franchising in pivoting with COVID. So let's talk about COVID for a second. There are many independent businesses that are really struggling, trying to figure out how do they pivot? How do they still not lose sales and maybe even gain sales during these unprecedented times? But with the franchises I work with, I've so admired how they have the technology, the tools, the resources, because they're not just a little independent business. They're a big franchise, and they've been able to pivot so well. So even traditional franchises like STEMtree or Huntington Learning Centers that typically always have a studio that you go to, a learning center that you go to, as an example, right away when COVID hit, they realized they could come up with a virtual platform done right on the computer, and the families love it, and they have not lost a beat. So versus passive outside research, internet, publications, your initial opinions or results of others, be careful there. A lot of times people, again, who don't know a lot or think they know a lot about franchising, they'll say, nah, I don't think a franchising would be a good thing. But keep an open mind, stay curious. It's amazing when you really truly allow yourself to learn, you'll realize a lot of your perceptions are in fact perceptions. In fact, a lot of the people I work with have what we call fear. They're nervous to begin with, and that's natural to be nervous because you're thinking about a change in your career path, and maybe franchising could be a good solution for you. But what does fear really mean? False evidence appearing real. And that's where I can help as a franchise coach, as a career ownership coach, to really understand each and every one of my clients as an individual, meet them where they're at, and make them okay with being a little nervous or fearful, but arm them with the actual facts and information, talking to franchisors, talking to franchisees who run those businesses every day to truly find out how we can check the boxes off, what really does line up with their ILWE goals, their income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals. So don't be a midnight surfer. Researching franchises and business opportunities is about having conversations and asking questions. You want to ask the franchisor about support, training, history, territory, advertising, about the site selection, lease negotiation. What's the role of the owner? What's the competitive landscape look like? But we're not going to stop there. You're going to be able to talk to franchisees virtually and one-on-one, and you're going to be able to understand, why did that person choose that business? Would they do it all over again if they could 5 years later? The earnings, the ramp-up time, the lifestyle, the relationship with the franchisor, lessons learned. Now, sometimes people say to me, well, Steve, won't the franchisees say what you want to hear because they're going to want you to join the franchise? Absolutely not. They're going to tell it just like it is. Why? They don't want you signing up and joining the franchise and paying your franchise fee, getting trained, and then flopping, absolutely failing because you were under the pretense that what you heard, oh my gosh, I'm going to make a ton of money after 3 months and I don't have to do much. Okay, they're not going to candy coat anything. They're going to tell it like it is because they want you to join the franchise if it's the right fit for you and at the right time, the right place, and for the right reasons. So asking the franchisees and having those frank conversations, that's very much an important part of that validation and discovery process. So using a coach to assist you. Well, you want to consider using a professional who understands your unique goals and needs. We call it G&Es, goals, needs, and expectations. Helps you make fact-based decisions, not emotion-based. Saves you time and money. Access to hundreds of options. Has experience in franchising and business ownership. We published a book on Amazon. It's called Your Career 2.0. We really help people take a look at their career path and their life in general in the past, in the present, and in the future in terms of prospects, threats, possibilities, options. Every person I work with is unique. They're an individual. That Career 2.0 is something that I send and that I have them research because everybody's different in what, again, they want the business to do for them. What in life do they want to accomplish? The business should be the vehicle to get the things in life you want. And then again, we can help you obtain the financing as well. There's so many wonderful options there we can help with. So what's the next step? It's about setting up a complimentary coaching session. That's actually a little misleading. It's not a complimentary coaching session. All the work you would do with me is complimentary. There's no cost, no obligation, no pressure. I want to be a slice of a pie. Think of a big pie. I want to just be one slice of that education that everyone here will go through if you're interested in either starting up your own business, buying an existing business, okay, or maybe researching franchising. You should look at all those options. And you'll be able to compare and contrast and benchmark one thing against another. So later you have no regrets in terms of the decision you made that's best for you and your family. So I can help by being a piece of that education pie, having that no-cost discovery educational approach to exploring franchise business ownership. I learn about your background, your skills, your goals, circumstances, your questions that you have along the way. It's a very thorough process with no time limits. So before I get into the last slide, and here's all my contact information, so please jot that down. I want to mention something to everybody. What can a coach do for you? Well, writing down a goal statistically results in a 40% probability of you doing it. Creating a plan to achieve that goal raises your chance of following through to 60%. Now, telling someone about your goal elevates your likelihood of success to 65%. And establishing a date to report back to that person brings your success level to 95%. The source of this information is the American Society of Training and Development. It fascinates me, but it really makes me feel good of why I've been doing what I've been doing for 20 years, why the Entrepreneur Source has been around for 36 years now, assisting people all around the country and the world who want to explore business ownership as a career alternative and are open to learn all about franchising and how that might impact them in a positive way. And why do you want to work with a coach? It's not that you're not capable on your own. Almost all of you are. But a coach simply keeps you in check and keeps you organized and has you do the things you intend to do and do it in a timely fashion. And that way you can monitor your progress and you can benchmark one thing against another in a very organized fashion. That's why that 95% success level happens when you truly are organized and work with a coach. And that's why we love having coaches and mentors in all facets of our life, because it helps, empowers us to reach the next level that we didn't know we could get on our own. Okay, so again, here's my contact information. One thing that I always like to bring up at the end of a presentation. So when I got into this 20 years ago, I said to myself, Steve, you're not the smartest guy in the world. You're pretty smart, but you're not the smartest guy. What's the one thing you can do and commit to it that you can promise your clients that likely you can do that no one else can do? And I thought of it. I said, in 2001, I said, I am going to promise my clients that if they needed me for anything, if they used me as a coach, no cost, no obligation at any time, and they needed me, I would return every call, email, and now, of course, text the same day. Folks, I have never knowingly missed a day in 20 years. There is no such thing as the next day for me. I will never have a full mailbox on my phone. Most of my clients do. I don't know what that's like, and I never will, because I'm immediate in terms of getting back to folks. If I don't know the answer to something, I'll research it and find out or direct you in the right direction. I have no problem doing that. But that's my promise to each and every one of you, is that you become very important to me. I become that free resource for you. You're going to learn all about franchising. Whatever direction you go in, if it's entrepreneurial, this will be a wonderful experience of education and connections that I will help facilitate at a high level on your behalf. And you know what? It's all about that win-win all the way around. So thank you, everyone, for attending. I hope you learned a little bit about franchising and some of the basics. And I would be delighted to hear from each and every one of you. Let's have a conversation and see how I can assist. Thanks again.